The morning sun lit up the peaceful suburban street. Children rode bikes along the sidewalk, dogs barked behind neatly trimmed fences, and sprinklers ticked across green lawns. Everything looked normal, safe even. But something unusual was about to happen on Rosewood Lane. The Thompsons lived in a white house with blue shutters. Karen, the mother, loved gardening and had roses growing along the front yard. Her husband, Mark, worked as a paramedic, always calm in emergencies. Their son, Ethan, was 12 and curious about everything. He loved books about space and mysteries. Their life was simple, until new neighbors moved into the house next door. It was early on a Saturday when the moving truck arrived. A sleek silver car followed behind it. The neighbors didn't bring much, only a few boxes and strange, rounded furniture. Ethan watched from his bedroom window. A tall woman stepped out of the car. She wore a long gray coat even though it was warm. Her hair was silver, but her face looked young. 2 children followed her, 1 boy and 1 girl, both quiet and serious. Karen walked over with a welcoming smile and a tray of cookies, just like she did with every new neighbor. The woman introduced herself as Lyra. She said she had just moved from far away and was looking for a fresh start. Her voice was soft but carried a strange rhythm, like she was trying to speak carefully. From the beginning, things felt slightly odd. Lyra and her children never opened their windows. They didn't leave the house much, and when they did, it was always after dark. No trash cans ever appeared at the curb, no pizza boxes or grocery bags, just silence. Still, they were polite, waved when they saw someone, and thanked Karen for the cookies with a gentle smile. Mark joked that they were quiet types and not to worry. But Ethan felt something wasn't right. He had a habit of noticing small details. How Lyra's shoes never had dirt on them, even after gardening. Or how her daughter's eyes reflected light in a strange way, like mirrors. He didn't tell anyone. Who would believe him? One evening, Ethan stayed up late reading by his window. A soft humming came from the neighbor's house. It was a deep, vibrating sound that made the glass shake slightly. He opened the window, trying to hear more clearly. The backyard was dark, except for one faint pulsing light near the ground. Then he saw her. Lyra stood in the garden, holding something glowing. Her coat was gone. She was wearing a long robe that shimmered like water, and she wasn't standing. She was floating. Ethan blinked hard, thinking it was a trick of the light. But no, she hovered inches above the grass. Then, just as quickly, she vanished inside the house. The backyard went dark again. The next day, everything seemed normal. Lyra smiled politely. The children sat on their porch. The house looked calm, but Ethan's heart raced whenever he glanced at it. He decided to tell his mother. Karen laughed at first. "Sweetheart, maybe you were dreaming," she said kindly. But when she saw Ethan's serious face, she paused. Maybe she was practicing some dance or performance. "You said it was dark, right?" Ethan didn't push it. But that night, he stayed awake again. The strange humming returned, softer this time. The same glow appeared near the fence line. He grabbed his flashlight and climbed out of the window. His bare feet touched the cool grass as he crept toward the neighbor's yard. He paused at the fence. The pulsing light was gone. Everything was still. He tiptoed toward the garden, heart pounding. Then, from behind him, a voice said, "You should not be here." It was Lyra. She didn't sound angry. Her tone was gentle but firm. Ethan turned around slowly. Her face looked calm, but her eyes were glowing faintly, and her skin seemed to shimmer under the moonlight. I just wanted to see what that light was," Ethan said, trying not to tremble. Lyra stared at him for a moment. Then she sighed. "You are curious. That is not a bad thing." She looked up at the stars. But there are things you should not see yet. Ethan opened his mouth to ask more, but she raised her hand. Go home, Ethan. We will talk soon. He walked back to his house, confused and full of questions. She had known his name, even though he had never told her. The next morning, the neighbor's house looked the same as always. Quiet, neat, peaceful. But for Ethan, everything had changed. He didn't know it yet, but his family had already been chosen. Not as neighbors, not as friends, but as the last hope for something far greater than any of them could imagine. And the woman next door was no ordinary mother. She was watching Earth for a reason. After the strange night in the backyard, Ethan watched Lyra more closely. Something about her had changed. She no longer avoided the Thompsons. Instead, she seemed drawn to them. One afternoon, she stood at the fence, watching Karen plant new flowers. When Karen looked up and smiled, Lyra hesitated, then stepped closer. These are beautiful, Lyra said, pointing to the bright orange marigolds. Her voice carried a soft accent, hard to place. Karen wiped her hands on her jeans. Thank you. They keep the bugs away, but mostly, they just make me happy. Lyra nodded slowly, as if trying to understand not just the words, but the feeling behind them. That weekend, Lyra invited the Thompsons over for tea. It was the first time any neighbors had entered her house. Inside, the walls were smooth and shiny, with lights built into them like tiny stars. The furniture was odd, curved and low, but surprisingly comfortable. Mark looked around, raising his eyebrows. Nice place, very modern. Lyra offered a small smile. I like calm spaces. As they sipped the warm drink, Ethan glanced at Lyra's children. They sat silently beside her, their eyes following every move, every sound. There was something polite, yet distant about them. Your kids are very well behaved, Karen said kindly. Lyra gave a quick nod. They are, still, learning. The visit ended peacefully, but with a sense of quiet tension. It was clear Lyra was trying to connect, even if she didn't know exactly how. Over the next few days, she began spending more time outside. She asked Karen about cooking, gardening, even how to fold laundry. It was as if every small task held deep meaning for her. Ethan noticed how carefully she watched everything. How a mother kissed a scraped knee, how a father hugged his child after work. She never looked away, as though these moments were treasures. One evening, as the sun dropped below the rooftops, Karen and Lyra sat on lawn chairs, sipping lemonade. The air smelled like fresh grass, and crickets had begun to chirp. I've lived here for 15 years, Karen said. It's not always quiet, but it's home. Lyra looked at the sky. Home is not a place, it's a feeling. Karen turned to her, surprised by the honesty in her tone. You've lost yours, haven't you? There was a long pause before Lyra answered. Yes, long ago. Karen didn't press further. Some wounds don't need words. The next day, Lyra's daughter Mira approached Ethan for the first time. She held a small device that looked like a glowing cube. She placed it in Ethan's hands and stepped back. What is it? Ethan asked. It shows stories, Mira replied. You like stories. He tapped the surface and a tiny image appeared. Stars, spaceships, strange planets. It was like watching a movie, but far more real. There were no buttons, just thoughts guiding the scenes. Ethan looked at her in amazement. Where did this come from? Mira gave a slight smile. Not from here. That night, Ethan showed the cube to his parents. Mark turned it over in his hands, eyebrows raised. Where did you say this came from? He asked. From Mira. Lyra's daughter, Ethan replied. Mark and Karen exchanged a look. Karen's voice was calm but firm. Ethan, I want you to be careful. We don't know much about them. But they're kind, Ethan said. They're different, yes, but not dangerous. The next morning, Lyra came to their door. She held Mira by the hand. I hope the gift didn't cause concern, she said softly. Mira wanted to share? Karen nodded slowly. It's impressive. Just unexpected. Lyra's eyes met hers. I am trying to learn. Your family feels real. I have not felt that in a long time. For the first time, Karen invited Lyra inside. They sat at the kitchen table while the children played. Lyra looked at the fridge covered in magnets, family pictures, and shopping lists. She reached out and touched a photo of Ethan as a baby. This, she said. This is why I came. Karen looked puzzled. To see pictures. To understand love. Later that evening, Lyra stood in her own kitchen, holding the same photo in her hands. Her son watched from the corner. Are they ready? He asked. Lyra didn't answer right. Away. She looked out the window at the Thompsons' home. They are kind, brave, honest, maybe not ready for everything, but they have something powerful. Her son stepped closer. Will you tell them? Soon, she whispered. Back across the fence, Ethan lay in bed, staring at the glowing cube beside him. He didn't understand all of it yet, but something deep inside told him things were changing. He didn't know it yet, but his family's kindness had already opened a door that led far beyond their quiet street into the stars. The morning started like any other. Birds sang softly outside. The air was cool, and the sun cast long shadows over the neighborhood lawns. But inside Ethan's chest, a strange energy pulsed, something between fear and wonder. He hadn't told his friends at school about the cube. It didn't feel like something to share. It felt private, special. After school, he rode his bike straight home and rushed to his room. The cube still sat on his desk, softly glowing. He picked it up, and without pressing anything, the cube responded to his thoughts. This time, instead of space scenes, it showed a tall, glowing tree surrounded by strange symbols. He reached out to touch the light, and just as he did, the image disappeared. The cube went dark. Downstairs, Karen was on the phone, and Mark wasn't home yet. Ethan slipped out the back door and climbed over the fence again. The neighbor's yard looked the same. Neatly trimmed grass, a few potted plants, and the small garden where Lyra often stood at night. But something was different today. The air felt heavy, like a storm was nearby. He walked quietly to the back corner, where a short shed stood. He had never seen anyone go in or out of it. The door had no handle, just a round indentation near the center. As Ethan leaned in to look closer, the surface lit up. A soft chime echoed, and the door slid open silently. Inside, dim lights glowed along the walls. The space was much larger than it looked from outside. Ethan stepped forward slowly, heart racing. The air smelled like metal and something sweet, like flowers. He moved down a short hallway, turning a corner, and found a round room filled with soft blue light. In the middle of the room, floating above a platform, was a small glass-like pod. Inside it, a child slept. She was younger than Mira, maybe 6 or 7. Her hair floated gently as if she were underwater, and a faint silver mist surrounded her body. Machines hummed softly around her. Symbols blinked on nearby panels. Ethan's breath caught in his throat. She didn't look human, but she didn't look frightening either. Her skin shimmered, her features delicate, and her face peaceful. A sudden voice made him jump. She is my daughter. Ethan turned to see Lyra standing in the doorway. She wasn't angry. Her eyes looked tired, and her voice was calm, almost sad. I didn't mean to sneak in, Ethan said quickly. The door just opened. Lyra stepped into the room. It opened because you care. These doors respond to trust, not keys. Ethan looked back at the sleeping girl. Is she sick? Yes, Lyra answered. She was born in space. Our world was gone by then. We kept moving, hiding. The journey was hard on her. She needs something only found on Earth. What is it? Ethan asked. Lyra sat down on a nearby bench. Human energy. Not just from the planet, but from hearts, from homes, from people who care for each other. Her body cannot heal without warmth like that. Ethan frowned. You mean, like love? Lyra nodded. Exactly. And your family. You showed us something we'd forgotten. Ethan looked back at the girl in the pod. Why didn't you ask for help? We feared rejection, she said quietly. Your kind has strength, yes, but also fear. We didn't want to be seen as monsters. Ethan thought about it. You're not monsters, you're different, but kind. For a moment, silence filled the room. Then Lyra spoke again. My daughter has been asleep for weeks now. But since we met you, her light has grown stronger. She reacts to the feelings around her. Every smile, every kindness, it helps her heal. Ethan stared at the pod. She's getting better? Because of us? Yes, Lyra replied. And now you understand why we came. Ethan walked closer and gently touched the side of the glass. The soft blue light inside flickered, just a little. The child's fingers twitched. Lyra smiled faintly. She knows you're here. After a few quiet minutes, Lyra guided Ethan back through the hallway. As they stepped outside, the sun was setting, and the sky was painted in orange and pink. Birds called out to each other as if announcing the end of the day. Can I tell my parents? Ethan asked. You can. But be gentle. This truth is heavy for some, she said. Let them see us with open eyes, as you do. That evening, Ethan sat at the dinner table, pushing his food around the plate. Karen noticed. You okay? There's something you should see, he said. Karen and Mark exchanged glances, but they listened carefully as Ethan spoke. He didn't mention floating girls or glowing cubes at first. He just talked about Lyra's sadness, about how their kindness mattered, about how their neighbors needed help, not fear. Mark leaned back. You're saying the girl next door is sick and somehow we're helping? Ethan nodded. She's getting better. Because of us. Because we care. Karen sat quietly, her fork in midair. She didn't speak for a long moment. Then, slowly, she said, If what you're saying is true, then we have more than just new neighbors. We have a chance to do something good. Outside, the lights in Lyra's home glowed warmly. And somewhere, inside, a sleeping child stirred. The sky was filled with quiet stars when Lyra stood alone in her backyard. Her eyes gazed upward, searching the heavens not for direction, but for permission. The night wind brushed against her long coat as she held a small, flat device in her hand. It blinked softly, showing a pattern that only she could understand. Across the fence, Karen watched from her kitchen window. After Ethan's explanation, something inside her had shifted. She didn't know if everything he said was real, but his sincerity couldn't be ignored. Mark had stayed quiet, choosing to listen rather than judge. Still, Karen felt it was time for answers. The next morning, she knocked on Lyra's door. Lyra opened it slowly. Karen, she said gently. I was expecting you. Karen stepped inside. The living room was clean but strange. The walls didn't have paint. They shimmered faintly. The furniture seemed to adjust slightly as she moved past it, responding like it was alive. "I think it's time you tell me everything," Karen said, her voice calm but firm. Lyra gestured toward a soft chair. "I agree. Please sit." She took a breath, then began. "My real name is not Lyra, but you may continue to use it. I am not from this world. I was born in the Oliari Empire, far from your star. My people were once many, spread across galaxies. But war, greed, and fear have broken us." Karen listened without interrupting. Lyra's words came slowly, but clearly. "My daughter, her name is Nivra, was born during our escape. She has a rare condition. Our medicine failed her. One ancient scroll spoke of a planet where healing did not come from machines, but from the emotions of others." She paused, then looked directly at Karen. "That planet is Earth." Karen sat still, absorbing every word. "And the others? The 2 children?" "They are not truly children," Lyra said. "They are guardians, protectors of Nivra. They were given childlike forms to help them blend in." Karen leaned forward. "Why us? Why our family?" Lyra smiled, but it held sadness. "Because you live with love. Not perfect love, but real. You argue, laugh, care, and forgive. These things are rare where I come from. Your home is a light in the dark." Karen looked down at her hands, unsure of what to say. Lyra stood and walked to the window. "At first, I watched. I did not plan to speak. But then Ethan came into our world. He was not afraid. He was curious. Brave." Karen smiled. "That sounds like him." "I knew then," Lyra continued, "that your family was different. You would not turn away." Karen stood. "You should have told us sooner. We could have helped." "I feared rejection," Lyra said quietly. "Many humans fear what they don't understand." Karen walked toward her and placed a hand on her arm. "Maybe, but we also protect what we care about." Just then, Mira appeared at the doorway. "It's time," she said simply. Lyra nodded. "Will you come with me?" Karen followed them to the small building behind the house. As the door slid open, she gasped softly. The room was glowing, filled with gentle lights and soft hums. In the center she saw the sleeping child, Nivra, floating peacefully. "She's beautiful," Karen whispered. "She is strong," Lyra replied. "But her strength depends on others now." Karen stepped forward and touched the edge of the pod. The child stirred slightly, as if sensing her warmth. "We can bring more people," Karen said. "Friends, neighbors, good people." Lyra turned toward her, her expression hopeful. "That may work. But we must be careful. If word spreads too fast, danger may follow." Karen nodded. "We'll take it one step at a time." That evening, she told Mark everything. He listened closely, his face thoughtful. "I believe you," he said at last. "And if there's even a chance we can help, we should." The next few days were quiet but filled with new purpose. Karen invited Lyra for dinner. Mark taught Mira how to fix a bicycle. Ethan read books to Nivra's pod, even though she couldn't answer. Bit by bit, something special formed between the 2 families. One morning, Lyra showed Karen a memory orb. "It holds pieces of my past," she explained. "Would you like to see?" Karen nodded. As the orb floated between them, it displayed moving images, tall crystal cities, skies with 3 moons, children flying without wings. But then, fire, warships, screams, the fall of a great civilization. Tears filled Lyra's eyes. That was my world, Karen reached for her hand. "You're not alone anymore." That night, a message came through Lyra's device. Symbols scrolled. Across the screen, flashing red. She stared at it in silence. The signal was clear. They had been found. The night sky looked peaceful, but it was a lie. Above the earth, far beyond the stars that flickered gently, something moved. Cold, silent, and filled with purpose. The Olyari High Council had discovered Lyra's location. Their orders were clear. Retrieve the princess or destroy everything in her path. Lyra stood at her window, staring upward. Her device glowed red, pulsing faster with each moment. The signal wasn't just a message, it was a warning. The enemy was coming. Inside, her home, Mira and the guardian boy, Kay, prepared quietly. Their movements were quick and practiced. For years, they had hidden in the quiet corners of Earth, hoping the Council would never find them. That time was over. Across the fence, Ethan slept soundly. But Karen, still uneasy from the conversation with Lyra the day before, sat up in bed. Something had changed in the air. A low hum vibrated through the ground, almost too soft to notice. Suddenly, the power in the house flickered. Lights dimmed, then died. Outside, street lamps blinked out one by one, leaving the neighborhood in darkness. The sky, once calm, now shimmered faintly with strange patterns. A soft glow moved behind the clouds. Mark grabbed a flashlight and went to check the circuit box. Karen rushed to Ethan's room. She found him at the window, eyes wide with fear. "Mom," he said, pointing up. "There's something in the sky." Karen looked out. 3 faint shapes hovered above the clouds, quiet but massive. They didn't look like planes. They didn't belong. A loud knock startled them all. Karen opened the door to find Lyra, out of breath. "They're here," Lyra said. "We must leave now." Mark returned, flashlight in hand. "What's going on?" "There's no time," Lyra said quickly. "They've locked onto our location. We have one chance to stop them." Karen nodded. "Tell us what to do." In moments, both families were packed into Lyra's strange silver vehicle. It hummed to life without sound, and lifted off the road like a floating boat. It didn't drive, it glided, smooth and fast, and the lights of the city faded behind them as they headed for the mountains. Lyra explained during the drive. "There is a beacon hidden deep in the hills. It was built long ago by an ancient race. Only Earth has the right energy to power it, and only humans can activate it." Mark frowned. "Why us?" "Because your emotions are strong, real. The beacon responds to acts of courage, loyalty, and love." Karen held Ethan's hand. "Then we'll do what we must." Clouds darkened the sky as they climbed higher. Wind howled through the trees. The vehicle stopped in a clearing where tall rocks stood like forgotten giants. In the center, a circle of stones glowed faintly. "This is the place," Lyra said. The beacon was hidden beneath the ground, protected by a system that responded to trust and unity. Mira and Kay led the way, placing their hands on a stone. The earth rumbled, and a wide platform rose into view. It was shaped like a star, with spaces for 6 people. To begin, Lyra explained, each person must share something important. A memory, a feeling, or a truth. Ethan stepped forward. "I'll go first." He placed his hand on the platform. A light flashed, and a voice echoed in a language he couldn't understand. But it felt kind. He thought of the first day he met Lyra, of his curiosity, of how he had felt no fear. The light glowed brighter. Karen followed, then Mark. They spoke of family, of love, of choosing hope even in danger. The platform shined stronger with each person. Mira and Kay stepped on next. Though not human, they had lived beside them long enough to carry the same spirit. They added their thoughts silently, and the stones glowed in unity. Finally, Lyra took her place. Her voice trembled. I once ran from everything I feared, but this family showed me another way. I no longer hide. I stand with them. The platform rose higher, lifting them above the trees. From the skies, the alien ships descended, their dark shapes circling like vultures. One ship opened fire. But it was too late. A beam of golden light shot into the sky, piercing the clouds, touching the alien crafts. The machines froze, their lights flickered, signals scrambled. The ships began to drift, powerless. The beacon had activated, not with technology, but with trust. Down below, animals stirred in the forest. Wind swept through the trees, and in Lyra's home, the pod where Nivra slept began to glow brighter than ever before. She was waking. The fight wasn't over. But Earth had sent a message. Humanity would not run. The golden beam faded into the sky, but its power remained. The alien ships, once strong and steady, now hovered uncertainly. Their systems flickered, unable to process what had happened. For the first time, they had been stopped, not by weapons, but by something unfamiliar. Human strength of heart. Down in the clearing, the platform lowered gently. Karen helped Ethan down, brushing dust from his shoulders. Mark stood beside them, silent but alert, his eyes scanning the treetops. Lyra stepped off last, her face full of wonder and something deeper. Respect. The beacon had worked, and it had chosen humans to awaken it. Suddenly, a loud crack echoed through the forest. The sound wasn't natural. Mira turned quickly, eyes sharp. "They're coming," she said. Kay confirmed it. A landing pod, ground troops. From the sky, a small craft descended, its surface dark and smooth. It made no sound as it touched down, but the trees around it bent away like they feared it. A door opened, and 3 Olyari soldiers stepped out. Their armor was sleek and silver, their faces hidden behind masks. Each one carried a long staff, humming with blue energy. Lyra stepped forward. "Stand down," she called. "This is my order." One soldier removed their mask. His face was pale, eyes cold. "Princess," he said, "you have disobeyed the council. You must return with us now." Karen stepped beside Lyra. "She's not going anywhere with people who treat her like property." The soldier raised his staff. "You are not part of this." Mark moved to her other side. "We are now." Tension filled the clearing. The soldiers stepped forward, prepared to take Lyra by force. But they weren't ready for what happened next. Ethan stepped between the adults. "No," he said loudly. His voice didn't shake. "She's with us." One of the soldiers moved toward him. Before he could reach Ethan, Kay blocked his path, staff in hand. A flash of energy burst between them, shaking the ground. In the same moment, Mira called out, and a second blast of golden light erupted from the beacon's edge. This time, it was smaller, but more focused. It struck the staff in the soldier's hand, melting it instantly. The Olyari soldiers froze. Lyra looked directly at the leader. "Do you see now? These people are not weak. They are not simple. They are brave, loyal, and they have something your empire forgot long ago." The leader stared at her. "If you stay here, you make yourself an enemy of the council." Lyra nodded. "Then I choose my side." Another voice echoed from the ship. It was deep and strong, filled with command. "Hold!" A taller figure stepped out of the craft. His armor was darker, edged in red. His presence made even the trees seem to shrink. He was a commander, one of the highest-ranking officers in the Olyari fleet. He studied the humans for a long moment, then turned to Lyra. "You've awakened the ancient signal. The council cannot undo that. They will try, Lyra said quietly. He nodded. Yes, but not today. He looked at Ethan, then at Karen and Mark. You've done something no empire could. You've changed her. Karen replied softly. She changed us too. The commander raised his hand. His soldiers stepped back. We leave, but this is not over. The craft lifted silently and vanished into the sky. The forest returned to stillness. A bird chirped. Leaves rustled gently in the wind. It felt like the world had been holding its breath and had finally let it out. Lyra turned to the Thompsons. Thank you. You did not run. You stood when it mattered most. Karen placed a hand on her shoulder. That's what families do. They returned to the vehicle and made their way home. The roads were quiet, the stars above clear and peaceful once again. When they reached the neighborhood, the power was back. Lights flickered on in windows, and the street lamps glowed softly. Everything looked normal, but everything had changed. That night. Lyra checked the pod where Nivra slept. The girl's eyes were open, just a little. Her fingers moved. The soft light around her pulsed gently. She's waking, Mira whispered. Yes, Lyra replied, her voice filled with joy. She feels the warmth now. In the Thompson home, Ethan lay in bed staring at the ceiling. He felt tired, but not scared. For the first time in his life, he understood how big the universe really was, and how much one person could matter. Mark and Karen sat together in the living room, holding hands. We did something real tonight, Mark said. Karen nodded. And it's just the beginning. Across the yard, lights glowed in the neighbor's house. Not alien, not human, just warm. Morning came quietly to Rosewood Lane. The sun rose slowly over the rooftops, casting golden light across the dew-covered lawns. Everything looked peaceful, as if the events of the past few days had never happened. But for the Thompsons and the family next door, life had changed in ways no one else could imagine. Ethan woke to the sound of birds singing outside his window. The soft breeze carried the scent of flowers and fresh grass. He sat up and looked at the cube still resting on his desk. It no longer glowed, but he knew it had done its job. It had opened a door to something bigger. Downstairs, Karen stood at the kitchen counter pouring orange juice. Mark joined her, rubbing his eyes and yawning. They exchanged a tired smile, one that said they both knew they'd never forget what they'd been through. Think we'll get a normal day today? Mark asked. Karen shrugged. I think normal has a new meaning. They heard a knock at the back door. It was Lyra. She looked calm, wearing simple clothes that blended in now, but her eyes still carried that spark, like she saw more than what was in front of her. Good morning, she said softly. I have someone who would like to meet you. Karen stepped outside, followed by Mark and Ethan. Standing next to Lyra was a little girl. Her hair shimmered in the sunlight, and her silver eyes were full of wonder. This is Nivra, Lyra said, placing a gentle hand on her daughter's shoulder. She's awake. Karen knelt down. Hello, Nivra. We're very happy to meet you. Nivra gave a small smile. Thank you for the light. Ethan blinked. She talks? Lyra nodded. She remembers everything, even while she was sleeping. They invited the pair inside. Nivra sat on the couch like any child might, curious and full of quiet energy. She looked at the family photos on the wall, then turned to Ethan. Will you show me your books? She asked. He grinned. Sure. As the children disappeared down the hallway, Karen and Lyra sat together in the kitchen. The sunlight poured through the windows, casting soft patterns across the table. The council won't stay away forever, Lyra said. But they've seen what Earth can do, what your people are. Karen nodded. We'll be ready if they come again. Lyra looked down for a moment. I was sent here on a mission, to observe, to judge. But what I found wasn't just useful. It was beautiful. Your kindness. It changed me. Karen reached over and took her hand. You're not just a guest here anymore. You're part of us. Outside, Mark fixed the old swing in the backyard while Mira and Kay helped him. Though they still moved with the grace of guardians, their faces were relaxed now. They laughed at a joke Mark made and took turns holding the tools. They were adapting, learning. As the day passed, neighbors came and went, unaware of the truth that lived just a few steps away. The alien ships had vanished, the sky was clear, and the world turned like nothing had happened. But in one home, a quiet alliance had been made, one stronger than any treaty. Later that evening, Ethan and Nivra sat under the big tree at the edge of the yard. The stars were just starting to appear. Fireflies blinked in the grass, and the air was cool and calm. Do you miss your old world? Ethan asked. Nivra looked up. I never really saw it. I only remember fear. But here, everything feels alive. He nodded. It is. People fight sometimes, but they also care. That's what makes it worth saving. She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small glowing stone. This is a memory crystal. It can hold one moment. I want to keep this one. Ethan smiled. It's a good choice. She touched the stone, and it lit up softly. Somewhere inside, laughter and starlight were recorded forever. Back inside, Lyra stood by the window watching them. Karen joined her. What happens now? Karen asked. Lyra replied, Now, we grow, we share, and we protect what matters most. Family, Karen said simply. Yes, Lyra agreed, and not just by blood, but by choice. Night fell, gently on Rosewood Lane. Lights turned off one by one. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying no fear, only peace. Somewhere far above, in the cold reaches of space, others watched. Some feared what Earth had awakened. Others felt hope. A signal had been sent, a change had begun, and it started with a family who didn't look away.